Chapter 62:14. Many people privately complain that he has no professional ability. In addition, the scandal caused this time is relatively serious. Everyone will definitely want him to leave the association. President Pei was waiting for someone to propose a public vote, so he immediately hit the ground running while the iron was hot. In this case, let's not discuss it behind closed doors, but call everyone to the big conference room and do it anonymously on the spot. When voting, I counted the votes in front of everyone. If I agreed with Jacob to stay, I would write "Stay" on the note. If I disagreed with him to stay, I would write "Go" on the note. The results of the vote will be announced to the public. Everyone was delighted and said in unison, "Okay." There were only about 20 people in the Calligraphy and Painting Association. So President Pei made a request for everyone to gather in the conference room at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The reason why they chose 1 o'clock in the afternoon was because several people were doing outreach outside. For example, Mr. Wu, who took over from Jacob to teach at the University for the Elderly, received a notice from the meeting that he had to go back to attend the meeting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone in the association, except Jacob, was sitting upright in the association's large conference room. President Pei did not waste time on any nonsense. After everyone arrived, he spoke directly. "Everyone, we have called everyone together today because of some personal issues of our Vice President Jacob Wilson 2 days ago. The impact of this matter is indeed relatively large. It's terrible. Vice President Wilson sent me another resignation email last night. So after some research, several vice presidents and I decided to hold a public vote among all members within our association. I thought it would be a good idea to mention if you want to retain Vice President Wilson's resignation." As soon as he asked whether he wanted to retain Jacob, many people immediately exploded. Naturally, they were 10,000 unwilling to keep Jacob out. President Pei saw that everyone was talking in confusion, so he patted the table and said, "Everyone, be quiet for a moment and listen to what I have to say." Everyone gradually quieted down, looked at President Pei, and waited. His next statement. President Pei cleared his throat and said, "Every one of you has a piece of paper in front of you. Next, you can write on that piece of paper, or keep it. If you want to retain the vice president, just write it. If you don't want to stay, just write "Go." It's a secret vote, so you don't have to write your name. You just need to write one of the two options, "Go" or "Stay." Of course, you can also abstain from voting and write "Abstain." After writing, everyone passes the note to me from back to front. I will publicly tally the results. If there are more people who support staying, then he will stay. If there are more people who support leaving, then he would have to go. If both sides are equal, then we will choose a compromise and let Vice President Wilson give up the position of Executive Vice President. When everyone heard this, they were instantly happy. The voting will be anonymous and the votes will be passed to President Pei on the spot and the votes will be counted at the same time. This is definitely not cheating. In this case, who will support retaining Jacob? So, everyone bowed their heads and wrote the word "Go" on their notes. President Pei picked up his pen, thought for a long time, and wrote the word "Abstain." Then he put the pen down and secretly took a photo of the note in front of him with his mobile phone. No matter what, he had left some room. If Jacob came to find him, he said that his palms and backs were full of flesh. So he simply voted to abstain. Those who really asked him to withdraw from the association were those who wrote "Go." It has nothing to do with him. After all the votes were in his hands, President Pei began to count the votes publicly. He picked up the first one, opened it, and read loudly, "Go." Someone immediately made a note on the blackboard. He picked up the second one, opened it, and continued to read, "Go." After reading 26 of them in one breath, only President Pei's own note remained. Everyone's face was filled with a New Year's smile. President Pei couldn't help but sigh, Jacob's popularity is so DMN good. After sighing, he picked up his note and said loudly, "Abstain." After that, he turned his head, glanced at the blackboard, and said, 26 people chose the "Go," and 1 person chose to abstain. It seems that this result is what everyone expected. Since the vast majority of people support his resignation request, then we will ask the Personnel Director to reply to Vice President Wilson's invitation after the meeting. He will be sent a resignation email, agreed to his resignation request, and informed him that he would come to the association to complete the resignation procedures as soon as possible after returning from Dubai. Don't know who took the lead in applauding, so the entire conference room was immersed in deafening applause. The vice presidents all smiled brightly. With Jacob gone, not only did everyone have one less thorn in their side, but they were also able to make further progress, which was naturally a really good thing. President Pei was also relieved and said to the HR director, "By the way, when you reply to Vice President Wilson's email, please also attach the minutes of our meeting." "Okay." The HR director nodded repeatedly. He said, "Don't worry, President, I will take care of it." "Okay." President Pei breathed a sigh of relief, stood up and said, "Okay, that's it for today's meeting. Let's adjourn."